everyone, and welcome back to Our Golden 20s. You have Sadie and Tegan checking in for the first episode of April. So welcome back.
Hey.
Today's episode is going to be all about Earth Month and Earth Day and just sustainability in general. We're going to share some of our sustainable living hacks, some ways that we reduce waste in our day-to-day lives, and just little changes that we've made that will add up to be kind of like a big impact. So we basically just wanted to kind of get this episode up at the beginning of April in case you're still thinking of your monthly goals. We thought it would be a great time to maybe challenge yourself to just be mindful of your sustainable lifestyle or like practices you can maybe start to implement since it is Earth Month. Just thought it'd be a good time to bring some awareness to that part of our lives.
Yeah, I remember being younger, Earth Month, Earth Hour, Turn Off the Screen Week. These were like some hype moments.
Turn off the screen.
Do you remember that?
I forgot about that. Oh my god.
It was so good. I don't know if other schools did this. They must have, or if it was just us, but that was a week where you literally did not use any screens. And oh man, that week was always fire. Like we'd play a different board game every night, and like we used candles, even though lights aren't screens. So I don't know why we did that, but I just remember being like so excited, so hyped. Like,
yeah.
So we need to bring that energy.
Yeah, Earth Hour definitely had me hyped. Turn off the screen week. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot that was a thing. That was always hard for me. And I think it was because when I was a kid, like a lot of people probably don't know this about me, but like I was obsessed with like building websites. I had like fan sites for all my favorite celebrities. I was like invested in like the internet world and also playing Sims. Like me and my sisters were hooked on Sims. I still am, let's be honest. But that week was like torture for me. But Earth Hour, we would also like bring out the candles and like make it very like, I don't know, cozy, I guess. And like,
I remember my family would like
fun.
Play instruments because we'd be like, we can't listen to CDs, so we're gonna play instruments. And the only thing I remember with Turn Off the Screen Week was Survivor was Wednesday night, and we'd be like, we're gonna miss Survivor. But
oh my goodness,
yeah,
so funny.
We're bringing that energy into 2022.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. And the rest of like the 2020s, because like, let's be honest, guys, the planet needs our help desperately. And I feel like with social media and everything, it just really amplifies like how important it is to make these changes in your life and whatnot. So I hope we give you guys some really great takeaways, things that are fairly easy to do. Like we're not saying turn your life upside down or anything. It's just little things that, like we said, will add up to make a big impact. Earth Day is April 22nd. I'll need to check when Earth Hour is. I don't know if
I feel like it's already happened.
Day.
Did I make that up? I'm looking right now.
Oh, I don't know. We'll double check that.
March 26th.
Oh,
so Earth Hour already happened.
Okay. Well, Earth Day is still coming up on April 22nd, and the theme of this Earth Day is to invest in our planet. So every year, Earth Day has a theme, and that's what it is for this year. And I pulled this little snippet from their website, and it says, we need to act boldly, innovate broadly, and implement equitably. It's going to take all of us, all in. Businesses, governments, and citizens. Everyone accounted for and everyone accountable. A partnership for the planet. And I love that so much. I think where we're going to start is really those things that we can do just like as citizens. And then we're going to get into at the very end some ways that we can hold businesses and our governments accountable because they're really the big guys who can make the biggest changes.
Yeah, definitely.
So Tag, do you maybe want to start with some ways that you reduce waste in your day-to-day?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to sort of mention that like there's the 4 or the 3 R's that we always talk about, and like recycling, and how recycling obviously is important, but it's not as effective as reducing waste and reusing things. So super important.
Yeah. It's 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, recycling is not enough in 2022.
No, definitely not. And so there
And if
are
we're personally attacking you, it's
Yeah.
on purpose. Just kidding.
Okay, maybe I'll hop in too and say that like a lot of times I can feel almost like hopeless or like what is the
Yeah.
point of making these changes if it's corporations that are killing the planet? But
Mm.
I feel like that is not true. Like every little
Mhm.
change does make a difference. No one's perfect, and we're
Mhm.
not expecting anyone to live a perfect, sustainable lifestyle. But every little change makes a difference. And
Totally.
like, I'm sure we'll get into this later, but even the businesses that you choose to support, you using
Mhm.
your money to speak for yourself can make a big difference. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
We have way
Yeah.
we have way more power, especially as
Yeah.
consumers, than we think we do, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah,
Exactly.
definitely a good spot to start.
Yeah. So there are, I feel like, the more obvious choices, like using reusable bags instead of plastic bags at the
Mhm.
grocery store. And I know for a lot of shops, it's like cheaper, like you get charged to use plastic bags, at least in
Mhm.
Canada. And it also comes down to trying to just reduce the amount of waste that you have in your life, whether that's from like food waste or anything like that. And it's worth noting that in a lot of cities, it's actually cheaper if you have less garbage. I know that in Toronto, the size of your garbage bin is different amounts of money on your taxes. So if you need a big garbage bin, you're paying a lot more money than if you need a small bin or if you're in a city that uses garbage bag tags, like that kind of thing. So I also wanted to throw that out there that it's not just, you support the planet, you are also saving yourself money, which is always nice.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. And I feel like reusable bags is so easy. Like at this point, I feel the idea of reusable bags has been around
Yeah.
for like years and years and years. And my family has used reusable bags, like I feel since the beginning.
Yeah.
But there's still people at the grocery store that aren't using reusable bags and they have like their cart filled with these plastic bags. And I'm like, how is it 2022 and you guys are still
Yeah.
using plastic bags at the grocery store? Like, I just don't get it. And for me, it's also extended into produce
I
bags,
was going to
obviously, like
say,
the
yeah.
like cute ones that are like, I don't know, the more like meshy looking.
Yeah.
I find those are like super helpful and they are washable. So if you use them to pack something that's messy, like just throw it in the wash
Yep.
and then it's brand new. Same when I'm just going to the mall, I have a few tote bags that I take with me, and one of them's from Anthropologie, and I get compliments on it every single time.
Mm.
Like it cost me $5 at the checkout. This was years ago,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like a cork material, so it's like very dated. I don't think they sell them anymore, but still cost me $5 at checkout. I bought it. I used it for everything when I was going out. I hardly go out anymore where I need a tote bag, but still. And I got so many compliments. Same with like Free People bags.
Yeah.
Like I feel like those make the perfect tote bag and you get it for free with your purchase. So it's like reuse those tote bags and take them to Sephora rather than getting like a Sephora paper bag or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So easy to do. Yeah. For me, another big one and something I've been doing for years and years is using a Diva cup instead of pads and tampons. And I don't know, again, to me, it feels like everyone in my life now uses a Diva cup. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't sound that like weird to me. Or, and again, I still have a hard time believing people use tampons, but it's true, guys. I was just at the pharmacy the other day. You guys probably listening are like, yeah, girl, a lot of us still use tampons, but it just like occurred to me the other day. I was at the pharmacy and the girl in front of me was buying tampons, and I was like, how? Like, this just doesn't make sense. But the Diva cup, I think, again, yes, it's saving so much waste because you just wash your Diva cup rather than throwing anything out. But it's also, like you were saying, Tag, saving so much money
Yeah.
because your Diva cup, I think, is good for like up to a year or
Mm-hmm.
9 to 12 months. I don't exactly remember. I replace mine every year, and that's like a year's worth of pads and tampons that I'm saving money on,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So win-win in my books.
Yeah. Even I know some people can't use Diva cups, but there are like reusable pads that you can use, or even
Mm,
like if you're diehard tampon user, there are sustainable tampon brands like August where
yeah.
everything's biodegradable. So
Mm,
there are like, I feel like it's not like how it was when we were growing up where you had so many limited options. Like there are
yeah.
so many options now. And the same goes for things like razors or anything that comes in that kind of packaging that you're using very frequently. There are so many sustainable choices nowadays. So make those choices.
Yeah, 100%.
Another thing, change that I've made in my life has been the using face cloths to remove my
Mm-hmm.
makeup instead of like makeup wipes or cotton pads. And like growing up, I exclusively used makeup wipes, and now that just makes me
Mm,
cringe thinking about it. But not to like, because the waste obviously is insane, but even just like it
mm-hmm.
never got my skin clean. I was always breaking out. And so I bought a multi pack of just plain black face cloths. So now I have 7 of them. And so I can use a different face cloth every night of the week, and it removes my makeup. I just use water, and it works so much
Mm-hmm.
better than anything else I've used. It makes my skin better. And then you're not throwing all this stuff in the garbage. And they're like teeny tiny towels. Like I add them to the normal laundry I was doing through the week.
Yeah.
And yet it's cutting out all that waste that was going to the landfill.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. And for me, when I do have a lot of makeup on, like I'll just take a makeup balm and like rub that
Yeah.
all over my face, get it all wet, and use my face cloth or rinse it off with water and then use my face cloth
Yeah.
afterwards. And I find, like you were saying, it's way more like gentle on your skin, way less waste, and
Yep.
then you can just wash your face cloths and they're good to go for next time too. So I love that. And going back to what you were saying at the beginning about you don't need to be perfect. Like
Yeah.
I have makeup wipes in my cabinet for the nights where I come home and I'm like, I don't know, drunk or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, I just need something to get
Quick.
everything off.
Yeah.
Like I still have them or to travel, whatever.
Hmm.
But it's like 90% of the time, it's a face cloth and a like makeup melting balm 100%. Similarly to that, in the kitchen, like I'm using
Yeah.
dishcloths, and to clean around the house, I'm using rags versus using things like sponges and paper towels
Yep.
and things like that. It just, again, you don't need to throw it out after every use. You can just throw these things in the laundry and then get them clean and use them over and over and over again.
Yeah, even like I remember I used to have like a Swiffer mop that used pads on the bottom that you would throw away, and all the like
Mm-hmm.
juice came in plastic. Whereas now I have something very, very similar, except the bottom pad you can throw in the washing machine and you refill it yourself with
Mm,
your own cleaning product.
yeah.
And like it's little changes like that that make a difference. Like instead of using the little sponges that fall apart, I use the biodegradable like brushes, I guess they're called, to wash my dishes.
Mm,
And half the time, the stuff works better. Like, I
mm-hmm.
find that the mop I have now, instead of a Swiffer, does a better job because I used to have to use like so much Swiffer juice and so many Swiffer pads to get my floors clean because, of course, they want you to buy
Right.
more product, but you're creating more waste. Whereas now it's just like so much more effective. Like, so for half of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff, simpler is better. It's the same with like cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
Half the time, what you need to clean is just like vinegar and water. But
Yeah.
like you feel like you need to have 15 million products that come in different plastic bottles, and you need the fancy Swiffer to get things clean, when it's like that's capitalism. You don't need all that.
I was like, here we go. Tech's going to go
Yeah,
on our
my
capitalism
capitalism
rant. It
rant.
happens every couple
Yeah,
episodes.
this is a perfect episode for it.
It really is. I love it so much. Super similar to that is using things like glass containers and Tupperware versus your plastic wrap or plastic Ziploc baggies. I used to use Ziploc baggies religiously. I would use
Yeah.
it for everything. And I don't know why, because I had glass containers and Tupperware, but it just felt like so much easier.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just like dawned on me where I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like, how many, like, it's again going back to just being like a single use
Yeah.
piece of plastic at the end of the day. Like, this is not good. So I've exclusively now switched to Tupperware or glass containers, and I feel just so much better about it knowing I can just wash it and
Yeah.
reuse it a million times over.
And it's cheaper. Again.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, like, it holds up better in
Yeah.
your fridge or in your like lunch bag if you guys are going to the office still. Like, these things are like sturdy and good
Yeah.
quality. Makes your life a lot more simple for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and along those lines, just skipping on any other type of single-use plastic. And
Mhm.
Teg, you brought up a good point that a lot of provinces in Canada, I don't know about other countries, but are starting to like charge for single-use plastics or starting to ban them in certain capacities. So this is things like plastic bags like we talked about, but also things like straws. I know
Yeah.
that was a huge thing in Toronto. I want to say like in 2019 was all the bars boycotted straws. Do you remember this,
Oh
Teg?
yeah, I
It was like
remember
a
people
whole
would be like,
campaign.
you like pasta you'd get sometimes as a straw. You remember this?
Oh, I
And
don't
then
remember
like
that.
my brother has celiac and it was a whole thing. So he's like, I like the
Oh my
message, but I
goodness.
can't have pasta
Oh
in
my
my drink.
gosh.
But
That's so funny. I
yeah.
don't remember that. I just remember everyone was like, boycott the
Yeah.
straw. Like, we don't need it, you know? And also think of things like cutlery when you order Uber Eats and
Yeah.
it's just coming to your house. Like, skip on the fork and knife. Like, you have a fork and knife that's better quality you can use for your
Yeah.
meal. So things like that. Also, plastic water bottles, like, that's a no-no.
Yeah.
And same with this one, actually, I'm not very good with, but like a travel mug, taking your own versus using a Starbucks mug or like
Right. Yeah.
provided Tim Hortons cup, something like that. But the water bottle piece, I'm like, again, how are people still buying plastic water bottles in
Yeah.
2022? I just don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one is things like K-cups or Nespresso pods.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they're so convenient. So like I understand why people use them, but
Mhm.
it's just so much waste. At least I
Yes.
know Nespresso, you can recycle the pods, I believe, like if you
Mhm.
collect them and bring them
Yeah.
back to an espresso place. So if you have an espresso, obviously you should be doing that. But
Yeah.
just regular drip coffee's the better choice.
Yeah, it goes back to what you were saying. Like, I've considered getting an espresso so many times
Yeah.
because there's so much hype around it. You know, like you watch any girly on TikTok, any girly on YouTube,
Yeah.
that's the first thing they do in their morning vlog is put their Nespresso pot in. And me being me, I'm like, okay, I better buy an espresso. But then I think about it and I'm like, no, like that's just so much waste. The amount
Yeah.
of coffee I drink, like, it's not necessary. And like all my friends that have an espresso are like, no, but it's the recycle program. But it goes back to your point, Tag. Like, recycling is not as
Yeah, it's the
powerful
last
as
option.
reducing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I've used my like regular drip coffee for years and years, and it gets the job done.
Yeah.
And why would I change just to, you know, be cool and have an espresso? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not worth the trade-off.
Yeah, not to mention, like, you can get some cute coffee machines. Like, I love my coffee machine,
Yeah.
and she is a
Yeah.
beautiful little babe that sits on the counter and is
Yes.
like,
And
hell
this is
yeah.
my other thing. Yeah, people who have Nespressos, I'm like, okay, but my coffee maker, I can schedule it the night before,
Mhm.
and then I wake up and my coffee is already made. Like,
Yep.
you can't do that with Nespresso yet.
Yeah.
And me being the ultimate lazy non-morning person, that's a big selling feature for me.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I've done, I think starting last year with my year of leveling up was also like leveling up just like, I guess, my sustainability as like a consumer and stuff. And one of the parts of that, or one of my yearly goals to achieve that, was to challenge myself to taking out my garbage once every 2 weeks
Mhm.
instead of every week. And here in Toronto, the garbage only goes every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, we alternate, organics goes every week, but garbage and recycling alternate. So I was like, why? And it's me, just me living here by myself. Like,
Yeah.
why am I taking out my garbage every week? Even if it wasn't full, I would take it out.
Yeah.
So now what I find has really helped me, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, is making sure I'm separating my garbage. So, all the food waste and things that would smell at my regular garbage are in the organic bin or like properly rinsed and like disposed of. And now I can just have my garbage, take it out every 2 weeks, and I feel so much better. That's like cutting my waste in half for the whole year, which is
Yeah.
really, really great. And I think something like that would make a perfect monthly goal for the month of April if you're looking for ways to include this into your April goal setting.
Yeah, even something as simple as like I'm going to research what items are compostable and compost those for the next month.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
amount of waste that is things that do not need to be in waste that could be recycled
hmm
or composted is crazy.
Yeah. That actually takes us to kind of the next part we wanted to talk about in this episode. And it's really just the first part was really about ways to reduce waste. This is a little bit more than that. It's about just like sustainable switches you can make in your life. So maybe not necessarily reducing waste, but other ways to be sustainable. And that's actually the first thing I wanted to call out. Was part of my sustainable journey last year was to research, okay, what goes where in the city of Toronto, and am I actually being as sustainable as I think I am? And I was actually surprised at how much I learned.
Yeah.
First of all, this information is like all over like the Toronto website. There's a whole Toronto Waste Wizard. So if you don't know where something goes, you literally plug it into the Waste Wizard and it'll tell you what spot to put it in. Also, there's a Toronto or TO Waste app that you can download onto your phone. And I feel like not many people will do this, but also with my like garbage schedule, there came like a cheat sheet
Yeah.
essentially of like what goes where. So just even like brushing up on that and just getting that knowledge, I think will go a long way. Because like you said, take things are like put in the incorrect spots so often,
Yeah.
and then it can contaminate so much other stuff that's in the right spot. So I think a good example of this is when you recycle something, you need to rinse out, if it's like a old sour cream container,
Yeah.
rinse it out before you put it in the recycle. Otherwise, you're contaminating
Yeah.
all of the recycling with food particles and it's no longer recyclable. So do your research and then follow through by sorting your waste and adhering to what you learned in your research. And a key call out here is that this changes based on your municipality.
Yeah.
So the city of Toronto is going to be different from where my parents live, from where my sisters live. So make sure, especially if you've moved, like make sure you're looking it up and adhering to what your city needs you to do.
Yeah, one thing I found that really helped was we bought for our kitchen a garbage can that has a recycling section in it. So that you're not like creating a pile of recycling somewhere. Because I feel like when that happens, it's easier to throw things in the garbage than to take them out to the
Right.
recycling bin. So we have a literal like designated spot in our kitchen that's for recycling. We're not leaving it up to us feeling like it because we're all realistic. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that could be also a great like April goal is just like, how can I better set up the system I have in place to make me more successful?
Yeah.
And if that means getting a bigger recycling bin for inside your kitchen, then do that. If it means like putting, switching the drawer that your garbage and recycling is in so you can accommodate like a bigger bin or whatever, do that. But maybe it's not okay to be like, well, that's just inconvenient, so I choose not to do it. Like, set yourself up for success.
Exactly. So I think the next thing I thought we could talk about was fashion because I feel like, we both love it. And clothing waste is always a hot topic, I think. And especially on TikTok, you see a lot of micro trends really quickly.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of discourse about why that is bad and why following the micro trends and shopping fast fashion is bad. Because there's obviously the level of if your clothes are that cheap, what kind of labor is going into that, which obviously is bad for many reasons. But then there's also the environmental side of it, which is if you are constantly trying to keep up with micro trends and buying cheaper clothes to do so, your clothes are not lasting as long or they're going out of style in like record time and they're ending up in landfills. Whereas if you were
Mhm.
buying basic pieces that are well made or from sustainable brands, they will last you way longer. So even though they are more expensive in the long run, they will save you money.
Totally. I think the fashion industry is one of the worst industries for this, and
Right.
like it starts at the very beginning, like you're saying, from the factories things are made, the
Yeah.
process that things go through to get dyed, content like
Yeah.
color dyeing, jeans, leather, like
Yeah.
those sorts of things are like so toxic for like water systems in the communities that they're manufactured in. And
Yeah.
it's really, really messed up. And I feel there's so many good documentaries. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on all of them. I've seen like 2 or 3 really good ones, especially through school and stuff. This was like a big topic since it's like the fashion industry needs to change. And we were like
Yeah.
studying fashion. So it's like, you guys are going to lead the change. But anyway, I think this is the prime example of you as consumers,
Yeah.
where you put your money is way more powerful than you think. And for me, that's really not shopping at Zara, H&M,
Yeah.
and if I am shopping there, it's on their more pricier items that I know are going to last me multiple
Yeah.
seasons or multiple years. Like I just got a pair of Zara jeans. I love them.
Yeah.
They're like maybe some of the best jeans I own, like to be honest with you, but I'm not buying those like $10 tops
Yeah.
just to wear once or twice on a night out and then they're going in the garbage.
Yeah. Well, and I even think of like how much money you're realistically spending. And like obviously there are
Yes.
situations where if you need clothes now and you do not have a lot of money, like okay, yeah, fair enough, you're going to buy the $10 shirt
Mhm.
because that's the reality of it. But for so many
Yeah.
people that is not the reality, and you're spending
Yeah.
more money because you are repurchasing cheaper things that last 2 or 3 wears when you could be
Yes.
spending, say, 3 times the price for something that's going to last 10 times longer. Like, I think of
Yeah.
how many pairs of cheap shoes I used to buy when I was like a teenager and didn't have much money. And it's like the shoes, they'd fall apart, they'd give me blisters, they'd last like, I'd go to Canada's Wonderland and they'd be like broken by the end of one day of use. Whereas
Mhm.
I have some pairs of shoes that I bought 10 years ago that look brand new because I spent the extra
Mhm.
money on them. And then they're also the type of shoes that if there is a problem, I can get them cobbled and repaired. Whereas
Yeah.
with a lot of this
Yeah.
cheaper stuff, you can't repair it. And so that was another thing I wanted to bring up is that if you have a problem with a piece of clothing, your first solution shouldn't be to throw it away. You like so many
Mhm.
things can be tailored to you for a very cheap price and then it's literally custom made for you and the problem's fixed. So many brands are now offering free or close to free repairs. Like I know Levi's does repairs in store. I'm pretty sure Lululemon does as well. And then obviously, if for whatever reason it's still not working out, you should be looking into doing a clothing swap with friends or donating your
Mhm.
clothes before the solution is to throw things out. Because I even know some places like I think like Value Village and like the Salvation Army and donation centers like that, even if an item is stained or has holes, they will then cut it up to create like rags for the kitchen, like we were talking about before. So it's like
Mhm.
these items have such a long life, and yet people treat them like they're for, like you said, 1 or 2 nights out, a good Instagram picture,
Yeah.
and then that's all they're good for.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that just came to mind while you were talking too is like clothing rental companies.
Yeah.
That's something I have looked into. So if you are somebody that's like, girls, listen, I'm a fashion influencer. I don't know how
Yeah.
many fashion influencers we have listening, but the influencers I see are like, I refuse to wear the same outfit
Yeah.
twice on my vlogs on my Instagram. And
Yeah.
it's like, first of all, that's ridiculous. Second of all, they do a lot of clothing rentals. So I can't even think of any Canadian ones off the top of my head. Sorry, guys. We can put some on our Instagram. I'm like not as prepared for this episode as I maybe should be. But still, I think that could be a really great way to get those trendy pieces. And essentially,
Yeah.
you just pay, how it works is you pay a monthly subscription fee. You get clothes, you wear them, you send them back, they wash them, and then they distribute them to the next
Yeah.
person or, you know, whoever else has interest in it. So I think that could be a good way to get those trendy pieces in without, buying it once, buying
Yeah.
something cheap, wearing it once,
Yeah.
throwing it out,
Well, one of
and so on.
my coworkers, for every wedding she's invited to, instead of buying a new dress, she just rents
Yeah,
one
that's
because she's
great.
like, I
Yeah.
know, like, I'm not going to buy a $400 dress for this one wedding I'm going to, and then it's going to take up a huge amount of closet space. Like, she's like, it's much more
Mhm.
realistic that I rent a dress. I look nice. I'm respectful to everyone there. I follow the dress code.
Mhm.
And then someone else can use it for a wedding next weekend. And it's not like every event
Exactly.
she's going to, she has to buy a new outfit for.
Yeah, 100%. I had this realization, I want to say maybe last year, because we know that I love to shop. So it is like, I don't know, maybe some people are like, wait, Sadie, you're a huge shopper. How are you talking about this? But I had this realization last year, I think. And I was going through my closet and I was like, pretty much all the clothes I have in here, I got while I was working at Anthropologie, and I quit Anthro in
Yeah.
2018. Like I worked
Yeah.
there from like, I don't know, 2014 to 2018 or whatever. And I was like, all these clothes are still the clothes I wear, but I shop so much. Where are all the other clothes? And I
Yeah.
had this realization that it was those trendy pieces
Yep.
that only lasted the season. And then it was just like, okay, these Anthro clothes I've had for literally going on like 6 years at this point, and
Yeah.
they still look brand new. So it's kind of like what you were saying, Tay, like going back to that, investing in those quality pieces, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it makes so much more sense. And for me, somebody who does love to shop, but I don't always have money to, buy things from Anthro or Free People rather than H&M and Zara, whatever, what I've started doing is setting aside like a little bit of money every paycheck and then just starting to do seasonal shops rather
Yeah.
than shopping every single weekend like I used to at one point in my life. Like, and then you can actually, your money can go a lot further when you approach it that way.
Yeah.
And the whole idea, also, I was going to say too, it's, again, I'm saying this so many times, but like it's 2022. People wear whatever the heck they want to wear. Like you do
Yeah.
not need to be trendy. And I feel like what is trendy right now is having a capsule wardrobe,
Yeah.
having a wardrobe of really quality basics. Like those are the things that you should be investing in,
Yeah.
and they'll never go out of style. So don't let people shame you if you're not wearing the latest trends or whatever, because who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares?
Exactly. Well, and another
Yes.
great option is thrift shopping, which I
Yes.
feel like back in the day was kind of weird, but then the hit song by Macklemore, Thrift Shop, hit the scene. And then it just became like a phenomenon, and it hasn't slowed down. And I love thrifting because the clothes you get thrifting will last you your lifetime, which is like the goal. Like they've already lasted to the point where you are going to buy them. So they will last through whatever you are putting them through. And so thrifting's really great for pieces that you need to be sturdy, like jeans or coats. Like I bought a faux fur coat for like going out in the evenings, and I got it for $30. Like that's insane.
Girl, I
Getting a
got mine for
winter coat.
10.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
these kind of deals you can't find anywhere else. And you know
Yeah.
that they're, especially if they're from back in the day, like everything was made so much better. Things were made more ethically.
Mhm.
And then you get to look like a style icon on TikTok.
Exactly. I love that. I need to do more thrift shopping. I haven't had too many good thrift finds,
Yeah.
but it's definitely the way to go.
It's where you
I
get the
think for
most unique things too. Like
yeah.
everything I get thrifting has like the weirdest just like story it's telling. And so if that's like the kind of fashion that you're looking for, like if you want interesting pieces that aren't basic, maybe a little trendier, but are purchased in a sustainable way. Like those are the things you can find when you're thrifting, and they'll still make a
Mm-hmm.
statement but be cheap and not be creating a bunch of waste.
100%. I love that so much. I think outside of clothes, a great way to find other things, still thrift shopping or like flea markets, that sort of thing, but also just online marketplaces.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of things more like furniture or home goods,
Yep.
stuff like that, even electronics in some cases. Like rather than buying new, you can buy a lot of this stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
Yep.
I've had great success with that. Kijiji, things like that, where again, it's a win-win because people aren't throwing it into a landfill
Yeah.
and you're not, buying something brand new. Often it's super good quality stuff and a lot cheaper than you would pay if you were buying something new. So
Yeah.
definitely look into doing that.
Even I know in Toronto we have a website called Buns, which is a trading website. And it's like, I was obsessed with Buns for a while, but I haven't done it in a while. But basically, the
I
entire
forgot about
idea
Buns.
is that you are not like paying for anything. It's all supposed to be like self-sustainable, and you trade. So like I remember I traded like a bathing suit for a Kate Spade purse, like all kinds of crazy
Wow.
stuff. Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
damn, look at me go on Buns. And people are like,
Yeah.
I will bake you banana bread for
Yes, I've heard
something
so
else.
many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard so many funny stories about Buns, and that's why as soon as you said it, I just like cracked up
Yeah.
laughing because
I got a haircut
things
because
are
I
so
traded.
ridiculous.
Yeah, for something. And they were like, I'll
That
trade you a
is
free
so
haircut.
funny.
And I was like, okay, sure.
Like, why not,
Yeah.
right?
So that's
So
a good
good. I
option if
wonder
you
if
have
that
things you want to
exists.
get rid of. I think it must still. I
Or if
don't
you have
know.
special talents that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And be like, you can
you don't
guest star
otherwise
on our
show off.
podcast, and then if you
Yes.
give us things.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I wonder if other cities have buns. Like,
They
please
must. Yeah.
DM us. Tell us if your city has buns. Tag, you're giving me so many throwbacks this episode. Like,
Oh,
I'm loving it. Like,
I'm glad.
turn off the screen free week.
Yeah.
The Macklemore thrift shop song. I
Yep.
totally forgot about that.
That was my
Buns. Oh my
jam.
gosh. That's so funny. I can't even remember how it goes. All that I'm singing in my head is Candy Shop by 50
Oh,
Cent,
no.
and that's not it.
It's like,
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to sing it, but
Thank you.
you get the idea.
Yeah, no,
I'll
that was
replace
enough
that
for
with
me to-
actual Macklemore.
That was enough for me to remember
Yeah,
it.
brought you
so
back.
good. Oh man, I love that. Yes, I feel like those are all really good like shopping tips.
Yeah.
And, things to keep in mind the next time you do need something, other places to look or like alternative ways rather than just going to the mall. Another thing on the shopping front is I like to be realistic with myself and be like, when am I being lazy versus when do I need something urgently and when
Right.
should I use online shopping? So, great example of this. We know this girl over here loves Sephora. There is literally, guys, a Sephora, I want to say maybe 150 steps away from my house. But I know if I order it online, it'll come the next day. And it's
Mm.
just so much more easy because I don't need to get off my couch. And it's like, but is that necessary when the product is literally in stock right across the street from
Right.
me?
Yeah.
Like, I think that could also be something to take into like consideration. And obviously, not everybody has a Sephora right across the street or whatever. But it's kind of like save the delivery truck, save the packaging, save everything from online shopping and go to the store when
Yeah.
you can. Same with walking rather than driving or taking public transit rather than driving. Like, this is obviously within certain means, but don't just do something out of laziness when there's a much more sustainable way to go about it.
Yeah. Like the amount of things that can be bought on Amazon. And it's like if you were just
Yes.
organized in your weekly shop, say, you could be picking up the majority of these things. But with Amazon
Mm-hmm.
Prime, like I see people on my street who get like 3 Amazon deliveries a day. And it's
Yeah.
like the amount of packaging that's going
Yeah.
into shipping these tiny little things that are
I
probably
know.
available at like the mom and pop shop down the street. Anyways,
Yeah.
my anti-Amazon rant
Yeah.
needs to be saved for another
Yeah.
day.
No. Yeah, honestly, I don't buy anything from Amazon.
Yeah,
I sometimes forget it's even like a
an
thing.
option.
And I'll be like texting my sister and be like, "Where would I find this?" She'd be like, what about Amazon?" And usually that's like the only
Yeah.
time I'll do is like when I don't know where else to buy something. But that's so true. And just kind of while you're talking, it makes me feel kind of sick watching all these influencers. And I feel like I'm just after the influencers in this episode, but like how many packages they
Oh, their
get and like
PR.
their
Yeah.
Amazon shops. And yeah, I'm just like, there's so much waste here. And like, this is consumerism to like the next
Yeah, it's
fucking level.
crazy.
And like, it is not good. And
Yeah.
it's just, of course, it looks glamorous and amazing. But when you think about it, even them, like, how can they not notice how much
Yeah.
garbage they have, how much packaging, how
Yeah.
much, like, goes into getting these packages to them? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Next time you're
Especially
like,
some
man,
of
I
the
wish I was an
PR.
influencer.
Yeah, like I see
Yeah.
some and it's like it's a box and it's got a TV built into it. And it's like, so they're gonna open it on a Snapchat story and then throw
Mhm.
away this like TV box thing. Like it's
Yeah.
just crazy. And even the
Yeah.
amount of stuff, like I see people on YouTube who are doing like an anti-haul where they get rid of stuff in like their makeup collection. And you see that they have the amount
Mhm.
of makeup that you couldn't use in 5 lifetimes.
Yeah. It's
And
like the actual product goes to
yeah,
waste in a lot of
exactly.
cases as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah. So crazy. But again, it's just like in perspective. And I hope this is what this episode is doing. Not like I was joking earlier, if you're feeling like personally attacked, like I was joking, that's the intent. It's not. I feel it's
Yeah.
just to bring awareness
Yeah.
and like to look at these things in a different light, from time to time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what will make like light the fire under you to make some changes in your life.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many like little options now. I feel like a lot of stores are trying to be more sustainable. And it's like stuff you don't even think about. Like I know the last time I ordered from Missouri or Missouri, however you say it, they now have an option that's like, do you want your jewelry to come in a box in the nice packaging? Or do you want it to just come as like in as small as packaging as possible? Because Missouri
Mhm.
you can only purchase online. You can't buy in a store. And I was like, hell yeah, give me the small packaging. Because it's like, why does
Yeah.
anyone need 5 different little ring boxes that all your jewelry, like when do you even use those ever? So it's
Yeah.
like now that
So
there are
true.
more options, and I know like some places are saying, if you have a big order, do you want them all to ship separately or can it be slightly
Yeah.
delayed to ship all at once? Like, it's like, is it that much of a hardship to wait an extra day and get it shipped all at once?
Mhm.
Save the packaging?
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
That's my rant done.
Love it. So good. I think outside of shopping, there's a few other lifestyle changes you can make.
Yeah.
This one I feel like is maybe the hardest of all, but I was someone up until I want to say maybe 2 years ago. I thought people were vegan to protect like animals and like, that's why.
Right.
But I learned that no, a lot of vegans, especially my vegan friends, are vegan for environmental impact. So the amount of water and waste that it takes to produce things like milk, for instance, is way more than things like oat milk
Yeah.
or almond milk, those sorts of things. Even between different milk alternatives, it takes different amounts of energy to
Mm.
produce the milk. So it's just like little things, not even little things, big things like that, I guess. But it's just so interesting to me. Even I've read stats about like if you eat meatless dinners once or
Yeah.
twice a week, you're saving this amount of energy and water and whatever else it takes to produce meat. And it's just like so fascinating to me. That was a big one. And obviously, that does require a lot more of a lifestyle change than the other things that we've mentioned. But I feel like going meatless once a week,
Yeah.
twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever, that could be another really great monthly goal or
Mhm.
little challenge for yourself.
Yeah, well, and that was something that I think raises a good point that was mentioned earlier is that you don't have to be perfect. Like, you don't have to decide, okay, I'm vegan now. It can be like, I'm having a
True.
meatless Monday, and that
Yes.
makes a difference. It's not about the perfection, it's about like doing the
Yeah.
5% better or whatever you decide. Another thing I wanted to talk
100%.
about was vacations because I feel like as the world
Mm.
opens up, people are getting more and hyped about vacations, which like same. And so I wanted to throw out that vacationing closer to home can be a really good option for trying to lessen like the impact of travel. Like we all know that giant jetliners and giant cruises and that kind of stuff are not always the best for the environment. So trying staycations and stuff like that, or even camping. And I know in Ontario, there's like a really good tax credit for vacationing within Ontario, which is cool for all the Toronto gals who listen. But obviously, like, if you want to go travel the world, like, hell yeah, go do it, girl. But be responsible while you're doing those vacationing. So simple things like making sure you're
Mm-hmm.
using reef safe sunscreen and you are
Mm-hmm.
listening to the locals and not going in areas where you're not supposed to. You're not touching the wildlife. That kind of stuff. Like
Yes.
it's crazy the amount of difference that people can have. Like in my time I've been traveling to Hawaii, I can visibly see the difference in the reef there from human interaction. And that's something that's not ever going to be reversed. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like just comes down to like a simple respect thing, but it's
Yeah.
so important. Like if you see a turtle on a beach in Hawaii, don't touch the turtle. Don't touch the wildlife,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, but it's can be hard because a lot of tourism is damaging to the environment. But I
Yeah.
think it's everyone's responsibility to do their research and try and be as respectful as possible.
100%. Awesome. I think the last thing we wanted to talk about was going, like we said, to that next level. So these are
Mhm.
all things that you can do in your day-to-day life, things you have 100% control over, but we also know that it takes a lot more than just, us properly reusing and
Yeah.
reducing and recycling to actually make the huge impact in the environmental crisis that we need to make. And a lot of it does fall on businesses
Yeah.
and our governments. So we have just 3 quick things that you can do to get involved in this side of things. The first one, obviously, being what we've already talked about so many times, supporting companies and businesses that have environmentally like sustainable practices
Yeah.
and they have goals and missions and values around the
Yeah.
environmental practices that they have in place.
Yeah. And it's something you mentioned, I think in a previous episode, but maybe you can touch on again, was bringing forward your values, especially around the environment in your workplace. Like I know you told a story of
Totally.
someone you worked with wanted to implement paper bags or something.
Yeah, I think yes. So in case anybody missed the story, if you're new here, it was all about my company wanted to abandon paper bags and go back to plastic
I
bags.
see, yeah.
And this was a few years ago when plastic bags were starting to be banned in Canada.
Yeah.
And my manager at the time was like, this is going backwards.
Yeah.
And she stood up, made a whole presentation, put forward all this research that she did to put a stop to plastic bags.
Mhm.
And she was able to do that. So I think for the companies that you work for, first of all, make sure, same way as supporting them with your money, like
Yeah.
make sure you're working for companies that you're proud to work for and that align with your personal values. I think this has become why companies are starting to change and become value based is because employees are demanding it. But I think you need to be vocal about that so companies can continue to be held accountable and responsible
Yeah.
and actually carry out what they say they're going to do. So 100% make sure you're voicing your values and ask them questions. Also, at my last job, we had a environmental committee, and I feel like
Mhm.
this is actually maybe more common than I originally thought it was. But like social groups at work, usually, there's different ones. Like at least the companies I worked for, there's usually like a women's networking one, there's like an environmental one,
Yeah.
there's kind of like an LGBTQ community, like where it's just
Yeah.
a safe space for everybody to talk about these things. And then they're the ones that hold the rest of the organization accountable to goals around those topics.
Right.
So look for environmental committees, see what your company's doing. That could be your chance to pitch new ideas and ask those questions and whatnot. So definitely a lot to be done from the inside out. Something else that I've
Yeah.
talked so much about when it comes to work and living out your values at work.
Yeah, I think the last thing is to research political leaders and vote
Yes.
for the leaders who align with your values and views and have a plan of action, and to then hold your elected officials accountable. So if they said they were going to
100%.
do something for the environment and it's not happening, send them an email and be like, I voted for you based off of this and you're not doing it yet. And it's the same, like I know Ontario has an election coming up. Email the people who are in your riding and say, what are you doing for the environment? What's the plan? And
Yes.
a good politician will have an answer, and then you can make an informed decision based off of that. I know in my neighborhood, they come door to door and like have your questions ready and be like, okay, so I'm worried about the environment. Tell me what you plan to do. And then it makes it so easy to know how to vote. It's not like you're just blindly guessing or you're voting based off of like, well, I've always voted for this party. You can break it down issue to issue that way. And if the environment's important to you, there are pretty clear parties who have an environmental plan currently, at least in Canada. And so then you can do your research, see what's most in line with you, and then vote accordingly, because your vote has a lot of power, even though I feel
Yeah.
like people don't want you to think it does. But it does.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And I think you brought up a great point, Tag, where I think a lot of the time when we talk about voting, a lot of people immediately think federal. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, Justin Trudeau, what are we going to do for the environment, bud? Like,
Yeah.
that feels far-fetched. And I totally understand that. But I feel like, especially things that impact you personally and like how you can get involved, it really dwindles down to your provincial
Yeah.
government, your municipal government, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Your actual mayor of your
Yep.
town, your riding, those sorts of things. Those are the people that you need to be contacting and asking these questions to, because that's where you, as just an everyday person, probably have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Of course, still vote in federal elections and everything, but don't overlook all the other levels of government that are closer to home.
Yeah. Well, it's like I guarantee all the big bad corporations out there, they know what everyone's plan is. They're talking to these people. So why aren't you? Like, use your power, use your privilege of your vote to make a difference and get a say. I'm very passionate about voting.
Yeah. Great. We've talked about capitalism, voting, consumerism.
Yeah. It's all good.
Malcolm Moore. We talked about
Yeah, those
all
are
of
my
it.
4 favorite topics. I usually cycle through those in every podcast. If you're new here, I always touch on those.
And I always talk about my shopping addiction,
Yep.
and that's about it.
Perfect. Well, I mean, if we've hit it all, it's the perfect place to wrap this up. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And honestly, I will say it is appreciated that you are even listening to this episode, because you saw what the title was about, the environment and sustainability, and you could have made the choice to not listen, but you did. And so for that, you deserve a pat on the back. And I hope that you heard some things that you can try and implement maybe into your April goals or to round out the rest of the year. And if there are any kind of tips or tricks that we missed, we'd love to hear them because obviously, like we've said this entire episode, nobody's perfect. We're certainly not perfect, and we have a long way to go as far as like our sustainability. So we'd love to hear all of your hacks as well. So we are on social media. Our user handle is at our golden 20s, and we're on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Facebook, and Pinterest. So find us on any of those platforms and send us a message or leave us a comment. And we'd love to read and share with our other listeners. We also have a Patreon page where we put out additional content there as well as we drop the episodes early. And that is your best way to show your support for the podcast. So shout out to all our patrons. Love you all. Sorry, that was maybe too intimate. You guys rock.
No, we love you.
Yeah,
We love
actually, we do. For real. So that is where we're going to leave it for this week. Thank you so much for listening.
See you next Tuesday.